Tonight on First at 9 this Sunday the 2nd of June 2024. Bad to worse. Inclement weather claims the lives of 7 including 2 children. Police sets up special operations room and 2 hotlines for disaster relief. Calls for bipartisanship. President highlights lack of economic revival plans by Sri Lanka's political parties. Calls on all parties to support the economic transformation bill.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
This is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Derana First at 9. I'm Aditya Singha joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. Now taking you straight to your top story this evening. Torrential rains prompted severe flooding, earth slips and landslides across the island, claiming the lives of 7 individuals including 2 children within the past 24 hours. Numerous rivers overflowed, causing major flooding to many regions across the island, causing damage to property and inconveniencing the general public. In order to provide relief to the people of Sri Lanka in the face of those natural calamities, the police introduced 2 new hotlines and established a special operations room to coordinate with other disaster relief groups. Meanwhile, President Ranil Wickremesinghe directed the Secretary to the Minister of Finance to allocate funds to the district secretaries to provide assistance to those affected by the prevailing adverse weather.
Heavy downpours persisted around the island today, with the highest rainfall of a staggering 436.5 millimeters reported from Ahalegoda in Ratnapura during the past 24 hours. Numerous deaths were reported from several areas caused by heavy flooding and earth slips. 3 of the same family were reported dead as torrents of water flooded their residence at around 1 a.m. today. The incident was reported after the sudden overflow of the Aswathuoya in Avisavela. The trio had drowned after being unable to open the door of their residence due to excessive pressure exerted by rapid currents. Police revealed that the deceased were identified as a 78-year-old individual, his 36-year-old daughter and 7-year-old granddaughter. In a separate incident, an 11-year-old girl died in a landslide in Hevaina, Avisavela this morning. 2 individuals reportedly died after a mound of earth collapsed onto a residence in Deyandara owing to heavy rainfall in the area. It was revealed that the deceased were aged 20 and 27. Meanwhile, another who sustained injuries in the incident is receiving treatment in hospital. As the prevailing adverse weather prompted by the southwest monsoonal conditions escalate, several rivers including the Kalu, Kalani, Gin and Nilvala have flooded. Accordingly, the Irrigation Department issued flood warnings in effect for 48 hours from 3 a.m. today, considering the heavy rainfall received by the middle and upper reach areas of the Kalani River. Water gauges in Nagalaganvidya and Hanmal areas of the Kalani River exceeded the minor flood level, increasing risks of flooding in several areas. Meanwhile, all water gauges of the Kalu River have exceeded the normal level, resulting in flooding along the Bulat Sinhala Kaluthura Road and several other main roads. The Ratnapura Colombo main road also remains inundated from the Gatahatha area. Traffic on the Ratnapura Panadura main road was disrupted after a mound of earth collapsed onto the road from the Galkadua area. Further, the route was also inundated from Kotambe and Modura. The Nilvala River as well as the Kiramara Oil Reservoir have started to overflow amidst heavy rains, completely flooding low-lying areas of the region. In the meantime, water gauges placed in Baddegama and Tavalama areas of the Gin River have reached the minor flooding level. As such, low-lying areas as well as the Gaul-Baddagama Road, Gaul-Batuangala Road and the Gaul-Mapalangama Road have been inundated. Many low-lying areas in Hambantota were inundated after the Sitinamaluwa reservoir overflowed. The Hakmanabeliyatta Road, the Tangol Nalagama Road and the Walasmula Deyandara Road too remain inundated as well. A massive tree collapsed onto the Colombo Kandy Main Road in the Varkapola area, disrupting traffic along the A1. The Met Department issued a warning for heavy rains covering the areas in the Western and Sabaragamu provinces and the Gaul and Mathura districts effective up until 7 am tomorrow. In the issued warning, the department said prevailing rainy conditions are expected to continue in the southwestern part of the island.
We expect rains of 150 to 200 millimeters in the western and the Sabaragamu provinces and in the Gaul and Mathura districts today. In other areas across Sri Lanka, showers or thunder showers are expected during the evening or at night after tomorrow.
Taking the current inclement weather into consideration, the National Building Research Organisation issued early landslide warnings to 9 districts island-wide.
Warning level 3 evacuation red notice was issued to Paduka Division Secretary Division Colombo District, Palindanuwara, Matugama, Budasingala and Ingiriya Division Secretary Division Kalutara District, Ruwanwela, Dehiyovita, Derana, Warakapola, Yatiyantota Division Secretary Division Kegol District, Ratnapura, Ayagama, Palmadulla, Kuruvita, Alapatha, Nivitigala, Kalavana, Kiriyal and Heligoda Division Secretary Divisions Ratnapura District. Warning level 2 amber alert warning was issued to Sitawaka Division Secretary Division Colombo District, Yakkalamulla, Tawalama, Nagoda, Neluwa, LPT and Niyagama Division Secretary Division Gaul District, Walasmulla Division Secretary Division Hambantota District, Walalavita, Agalawatta, Dodangoda and Horana Division Secretary Division Kalutara District, Udapalata Division Secretary Division Kandy District, Kotapola, Mulatian and Pitabathara Division Secretary Division Mathura District, Kotmale and Abagamu Korle Division Secretary Division Norali District, Ibulpe, Balangoda and Opanayaka Division Secretary Division Ratnapura District. Warning level 1 watch yellow warning was issued to Okewela and Katuwana Division Secretary Division Hambantota District, Beruwala, Maduravala and Kalutara Division Secretary Division Kalutara District, Paskbaya Korle, Gangihala Korle, Yatinuwara, Gangawata Korle and Udunuwara Division Secretary Division Kandy District, Rambukkana, Bulatkohopitiya, Mavanayala, Galigamua, Kegol and Aranayaka Division Secretary Division Kegol District, Alavu and Naramala Division Secretary Division Kutnagara District, Hakmana, Devinuwara, Kamburupitiya, Velipitiya, Dikwella, Mathura Progavats, Aturliya, Tihagoda, Veligama, Mathura, Malimbada, Akurassa, Pasgoda and Kirinda Puhulwella Division Secretary Division Mathura District, Nuvarelia Division Secretary Division Nuvarelia District, Velikapola, Godakavela, Kahavatta and Kolonna Division Secretary Division Ratnapura District.
In the meantime, Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara stated that the Mathura District Disaster Management Committee and government officials convened a meeting today to discuss strategies to mitigate the effects of inclement weather. Taking to X, the minister went on to say that requirements of the displaced families, facilities at the displaced centres, deploying rescued personnel, boat equipment to affected areas, coordination between essential service agencies, further disaster prevention mechanisms and financial assistance required were reviewed during the meeting. He also stated that it was decided to allocate necessary finances and resources from the central government and the provincial council to the district secretary, divisional secretaries, local councils and the disaster management centre to implement these measures. Meanwhile, State Minister of Education Arvind Kumar stated that the Ministry of Education announced that all government schools will be closed tomorrow owing to the prevailing severe weather conditions across Sri Lanka. Taking the current weather situation into consideration, the police established a special operations room while also setting up 2 emergency telephone numbers. Accordingly, the general public is now able to seek assistance and also coordinate with other disaster relief groups by contacting the hotlines 011 242 1820 and 011 242 1111.
Crunchy goodness for hunger on the go.
ජීවිතේ හැම තැනකදීම ස්මාර්ට් වෙන්න පොලිය විතරක් ගෙවාගෙන යන්න CDB Smart Draft.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe requests all political parties to support the proposed economic transformation bill as it is the only solution to the economic crisis in the country. The president made that assertion while attending a function held at the United National Party headquarters today.
The granting of appointments to newly appointed organisers of the United National Party was held at the Sirikotha party headquarters today under the patronage of President Ranil Wickremesinghe.
At a time where most leaders in the country avoided taking on the responsibility of the nation, Ranil Wickremesinghe came forward and accepted it. He managed to empower the nation. There's only one person who can do this, and that is Ranil Wickremesinghe.
The minorities of the nation account for 32% of its population. I am confident that President Ranil Wickremesinghe will secure the most minority votes. I am also sure that the highest portion of the 6.9 million votes claimed by the SLPP will be secured by Ranil Wickremesinghe this time.
Following the resignation of then Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa followed the political tradition and invited Sajith Premadasa to be the Prime Minister. What did he do? Would Ranasinghe Premadasa or J.R. Jayawardena have refused that invitation? They would have not refused it. That is the standard of the UNP. Even the JVP refused to accept responsibility because they lacked a solution. I accepted the responsibility without fear because I had a solution. How was both Vesak and the Sinhala Tamil New Year? There's plenty of rice in Anuradhapura for the Poson season. However, we are yet to come out of the woods. None of the parties have presented their programs. They cannot even do that. However, as a government, we agreed to a program with the IMF and allies to resurrect the country. That agreement, which is the Economic Transformation Bill, will be presented to Parliament to be passed as a law of the land. Since other parties have failed to present a program, my message for them is to support us in passing the Economic Transformation Bill in Parliament.
Minister of Foreign Affairs, President's Council Ali Sabri reaffirmed the government's stance on holding the presidential election this year as per the constitution, adding that it cannot be postponed and that the public has the right to decide who they want to govern the country. Speaking to Indivari Amuatta during our current affairs program at Hyde Park on Adadarana 24, the Sri Lankan Foreign Minister highlighted the importance of joining intergovernmental organizations such as BRICS, which he believes is heading in the right direction.
What is your view of the international community's engagements here and also Sri Lanka's current position in holding elections?
I think elections should be held as it mandated in the constitution. I think presidential election cannot be postponed, should not be postponed. Yes, we have done a good job for 2 years. Continuity would be good, but who to decide? The public must decide. So we should be able to go before the public and convince. If they are not convinced, it's up to the public to decide whom they want. That's what the democracy is all about. So therefore, I don't associate with that at all. I think it's a contemptuous statement. Elections should be held as it is.
Do you feel that, considering the concerns raised, that there is too much of Indian influence in Sri Lanka?
Whether we like it or not, India is our largest neighbor, and it is the continents or regions which develop together. So this is India's turn. I think when India makes great strides on its economy, it's good for the region, good for Sri Lanka. But having said so, Sri Lankans should be skillful enough to understand what is our priorities, what are the pros and cons in any engagement, and should not compromise our national interest. We should improve our skills to skillfully negotiate and get what is good for Sri Lanka.
You've expressed Sri Lanka's intention in joining BRICS, RCEP. What's the status of these engagements?
RCEP we have already applied, so we are waiting. It's a long process, takes time. Good to start it. It's out of our control. It is for the RCEP members to decide on that. BRICS we have not applied yet, but I have submitted a cabinet paper for the cabinet to appoint expert committee to study the pros and cons and suggest to the cabinet whether we should apply or not. So we are awaiting that report. Once that comes, we probably get the cabinet nod and then go and apply. Personally speaking for myself, I would like that because that's where the future is. Good to have multiple choices rather than just drag into one area of it. So BRICS is in the right direction because the global south countries are there. That's a good option for us.
What really are the benefits here for Sri Lanka?
Basically, BRICS are talking about dealing in their own currencies, so that will cut off commissions at different level. And then once you work as a trade bloc like the G20 and G7 and all those things, they have their own way of taxations and things like that. That gives you a larger market. There are benefits in that. So therefore, it's a good thing for us to have a look at it. And then
the 18th of May was declared by the Canadian government as Genocide Remembrance Day, and there are continuous claims of genocide. What will Sri Lankan government do to engage or show proof of what really happened here on the ground?
We are continuously engaging with the Canadian government. Canadian government foreign ministry is called Global Affairs. Global Affairs has very clearly stated in writing to a response to a RTI saying that no genocide had committed in Sri Lanka, and what happened in Sri Lanka does not qualify for genocide. That's their official position. But despite that, politicians on their own, as the Indian External Affairs Minister put in, based on vote bank politics, just to please the readily available Tamil votes there, unfortunately, come out with outrageous positions of genocide which took place in Sri Lanka, which we have protested to the core. Even recently, you would have seen that the press release which we have released on Prime Minister Trudeau's statement, we don't agree with it, we don't condone that, we say that this is unhelpful, because we are trying to reconcile in Sri Lanka. It's easy for the people who are not sitting here outside to come and say how to run our country, but we must have peace in this country. That is not possible by only pleasing one segment of the society. We must get something going which is acceptable to the Sinhalese, Tamils and the Muslims and all. So when they come out with outrageous one statement or one-sided statement, for example, every year he comes out and congratulate for Sinhala New Year only Tamil community in that country. He deliberately leaves out the Sinhalese community. So it's unhelpful for us. That's what we have said. Rather than becoming an obstacle for peace in Sri Lanka, meaningfully engage with us. Even now there is a bilateral consultations is going on in Sri Lanka. There, one of the deputy ministers is here and our foreign secretary is talking to them. What we are asking them is to engage and listen to both sides. Don't go by few politicians who are acting totally on selfish agendas to get some votes.
Parliamentarian SM Marikar claims that the presidential election will be held on time and that President Ranil Wickremesinghe or UNP General Secretary Palitha Bandara have no power over elections. Meanwhile, State Minister of Foreign Employment Promotion Jagat Pushpakumara claims that opposition leader Sajith Premadasa selfishly evaded the responsibility of the nation during its darkest hour by only considering his political future.
There are some who act as if they've never been in the government. However, they did hold ministerial portfolios before. Now they act as if they've never held power ever in their life. I have some bad news for the so-called leader who criticizes me for conducting this program. On the 23rd of June, I will donate 100 more smart classrooms commemorating the 100th anniversary of my father, the late former President Ranasinghe Premadasa.
තව සුහුරු පන්ති කාමර 100ක් මගේ තාත්තට පිම්පිනිස මම පාසල් 100කට ලබා දෙනවා. අන්න තියෙනවා අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම ජනාධිපති.
Yes, the election will be held. The presidential election will be held after 16th of October. Neither President Ranil Wickremesinghe nor Palitha Bandara will hold the election. The election commission will hold the election. Although President Wickremesinghe likes to show off when he is in power, he is extremely afraid. We know that.
ඔය රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මහත්තයා බලේ ඉන්නකොට හයිය පෙන්නකොට රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මහත්තයා කියන එන බය ගුල් එකේ අපි නේ දන්නේ. මේක බාර ගන්න කෙනෙක් නැහැ. මම ඇතුළු අපේ
There was no one to accept the country's responsibility. A team including myself went to visit the opposition leader and we urged him to take on the responsibility of the nation. At that moment, he said that he didn't want to take on the responsibility of the catastrophic plight of the nation since he feared that he would lose his chance to become the president for a full term. He only thought of his political future and not about the people who were suffering at that time.
අවුරුදු 5ක් ඉන්නවන එක මිසක් ඒ වෙලාවේ දුෂ්කර ජීවිතයක් ගත කර මිනිස්සු වෙනුවෙන් නෙවෙයි කියන එක මම මේ අවස්ථාවේ මතක් කරනවා. අමාත්‍යවරණයක් තියෙද ජනාධිපතිවරණයක් තියෙද. නෑ ඒක කියන්න බෑ. ඕනෑම ඇතිවුණා.
We are not sure which election will be held first. We are ready for any election, be it the general election, the local government election or the provincial election. We are ready to contest.
If there is an ounce of decency left in them, they must face reality and accept their loss. Their tricks will not work.
මේ කරන සෙල්ලම් හරියන්නේ නැහැ කියන එකත් ඒගොල්ලෝ හොඳින් මතක තියාගන්න වෙනවා.
JVP එක හිටපු තැනට ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා.
The JVP has returned to its former place. They have begun to show their old character. If someone claims that the JVP's vote bank has fractured, it is not true. The JVP's 400,000 strong voter base still remains the same. So there's a huge difference between the JVP's current position and the SJB's current position.
ඒ නිසා JVP එකේ ලක්ෂ 4යි අපි සමගි ජන බලවේගයේ ඉන්න තැනයි මහා විශාල වෙනසක් තියෙනවා.
In other political news, national organizer of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, Duminda Disanayake, states that the SLFP will move forward as a single united party from today onwards, abandoning all factions and differences within the party. He made those remarks following a meeting of the SLFP where appointment letters were handed over to the organizers of the party. However, commenting on the meeting, former chairman of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, Maithripala Sirisena, claims that the granting of appointment letters is contrary to the party constitution, illegal and unethical.
The acting chairman of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, Minister Nima Siripala de Silva, convened a special Central Committee meeting at the Sri Lanka Freedom Party headquarters on Dali Road, Colombo today. However, former chairman of the party, Maithripala Sirisena, expressed his objection to the media yesterday and stated that they should not call such a Central Committee meeting.
As the former chairman, I have clear knowledge regarding the party's constitution. I heard that they're going to grant positions to organizers of the party. I must clearly state that those actions are contrary to the constitution. They are illegal and unethical. That is only a small group that depends on the government. The people of this country are aware that they are working with the government while expecting ministerial portfolios.
Despite these objections, the party's acting president Nima Siripala de Silva held the meeting as planned at the party headquarters.
මෛත්‍රීපාල සිරිසේන මැතිතුමා විසින් පත් කරන ලද සංවිධායකින් පැමිණ සිටි සියලු දෙනාටම මමත් ඒ පත්වීම් තහවුරු කරමින් පත්වීම් ලිපි ලබා දුන්නා. මම හිතන්නේ අද ඔබතුමාලට පේන්න ඇති ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ
There won't be two factions within the SLFP from today onwards. As the present acting chairman, Nimal Siripala de Silva handed over appointment letters to all organizers. From today onwards, the SLFP will become one party.
ආයි ගන්න වාර නැහැ.
And now let's take a look at some local news in brief.
Jail Excise Department officials arrested a 29-year-old individual in Ekala for attempting to distribute 750 bottles of illegal spirits. The suspect was planning to distribute the illegal alcohol spirits in Colombo and its suburban areas. A CTB bus collided with a private bus travelling from Colombo to Panadura today. The bus conductor, who is from the Panadura depot, succumbed to his injuries sustained in the accident, while 4 others were injured. An individual was arrested on the Nagalagam street in Colombo 14 with a stock of crystal methamphetamine and a revolver capable of firing 9mm bullets. The revolver's country of origin or year of manufacture have not been identified so far. The Crime Investigation Unit officials of the Colombo Crime Division have confiscated the items.
Welcome back. Now, responding to a question on the necessity of a development bank in Sri Lanka, Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinha says that the country's entire banking sector should be able to attract long-term funding and provide it for development projects. He made those comments while addressing the media briefing to announce the monetary policy stance of the central bank. When quizzed on the government's aim to introduce cryptocurrencies to Sri Lanka, the central bank governor is of the view that Sri Lanka needs a proper regulatory framework given the volatile nature of the asset class.
There is again a renewed discussion about need for a development banking. What is central bank's position on that?
I don't think we have any view on that. That's a policy by the government. I have also seen the discussion on need for a development bank. There are several times this has been discussed earlier, but it did not come to a realize. I can remember there was a budget proposal also. First requirement, this government will have to allocate capital. So establish a bank, you need a fair amount of capital. So who is going to bring that capital? It's a policy decision by the government, where the government will infuse capital and establish a government-owned bank, or whether it will open up for private sector to come and invest, putting capital as a bank. And also, development bank should be able to attract medium to long-term sources of funding for them to do medium to long-term businesses.
Why are we continuing to have certain banks calling as development banks? What's central bank's position?
Development banking is one concept. Name of the bank is a different thing. Anyone can have any name of the bank. What is more important, banking sector ability to attract medium to long-term sources of funding, as well as ability to lend medium to long-term on the basis of projects. That's all about development banking. It's not necessarily development banking. Historically has been something like giving subsidized loans, getting subsidized credit from, say, DBO, other development agencies. I don't think that is a feasible model going forward because we don't get any subsidized credit for that purpose. Even subsidized credit lending is not going to work. It has to be market-based long-term, medium, long-term lending, ability for the banks to raise that kind of funding, and also ability to assess the risk properly and have proper lending standards, assess the creditworthiness, and support all this medium, long-term funding by all the banks. That's why I think this concept of development banking is about lack of this mismatch in lending and borrowing. Banks right now in Sri Lanka, source of funding mainly deposit based, not even longer term. It's a 1 year deposits are the majority. Difficult to lend longer term when you raise funding through shorter term 1 year deposits. Mobilization. This has to be changed.
President last week mentioned about introducing cryptocurrencies. Are we ready? What is central bank stand on this?
I don't think anywhere in the world crypto is authorized as a medium of payment and settlement. This has been recognized in some markets as a asset class. But this asset class is highly volatile and risky asset. So question is that without proper regulation and supervision, do we need public to invest in highly volatile, risky assets without being properly regulated? So if that is to happen, I think we, in our view, need to have a proper, strong regulatory mechanism for people to have confidence in investing that kind of a volatile asset. That's one of the reasons why we discouraging people to invest in, for example, unauthorized deposits.
Now in other news surrounding the country's economy, Sri Lanka's deficit in the merchandise trade account has narrowed to $558 million in April from $583 million recorded a year earlier. Releasing the external sector report for the month of April, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka states that the cumulative deficit in the trade account during January to April has widened to $1.7 billion from $1.4 billion recorded in the same period in 2023.
The data issued by the central bank claims that year-on-year earnings from merchandise exports increased by 3.4% to $878 million in April from a year earlier. However, it is lower than the export earnings recorded in March 2024 as a result of broad-based decline due to festive seasonal effects. The cost of merchandise imports increased by a mere 0.3% to $1.4 billion in April 2024 from a year earlier, while showing a month-on-month decline compared to March 2024, primarily due to the decline in fuel expenditure. Earnings from tourism in April 2024 were estimated at $226 million lower than the $338 million recorded in March 2024. Meanwhile, workers' remittances were recorded at $544 million in April 2024, lower than the $572 million recorded a month earlier. Foreign investments in the government securities market recorded a net outflow of $24 million in April 2024, resulting in a cumulative net outflow of $113 million during the first 4 months of the year. The data showed that the gross official reserves increased to $5.5 billion by the end of April this year, which includes a swap facility from the People's Bank of China for $1.5 billion and purchases of foreign exchange from the domestic foreign exchange market by the central bank for $1.6 billion.
In your corporate updates, Dilshan Rodrigo has been appointed as the Director and CEO of Union Bank with effect from August this year. With that, let's take a look at some corporate news in brief.
The Union Bank of Colombo said Dilshan Rodrigo, an experienced banker, has been appointed as its director and CEO, succeeding Indrajit Wickramasinghe, who held the position for 9 years. He is the current deputy CEO and will assume the role of director and CEO of Union Bank on the 16th of August, subject to regulatory approvals. Rodrigo will spearhead the organization's next phase of growth. Meanwhile, in other corporate news, East West Properties claim that they have appointed Anika and Vinodini Vijaysurya as the non-executive director of the company with effect from the 30th of May 2024. Vijaysurya, who held many directorial positions in the hotel and property industry, is also the director of Mama Skin Private Limited. Meanwhile, United Motors Lanka said that it has appointed Central Depository Systems Private Limited as the registrars of the company. Issuing a statement, United Motors said the appointment is effective from the 28th of May 2024 onwards.
That's all the news we have for you tonight. Thank you. Have a great night.